What is the worst thing that a boyfriend/girlfriend of yours has ever done? One of my exes cheated on me with 5 other guys and the other one had people stalking me. Girlfriend of 3 years broke up with me because she was cheating on me with my roommate/best friend. She didn't tell me this during the breakup conversation, she just said, "Love you, but I'm not in love with you." So I went back to my dorm room and cried on my roommate's shoulder about being dumped. I woke up the next morning to a text from her asking to talk. Go to talk and she tells me about my roommate. Leave that conversation furious and I go back to the room to find out that he moved out while I was getting the rug pulled out from under me for the second time. I hope this is understandable. I'll try my best to explain it in a comprehensible way. Smiley face. Cheat on me with her best friend's boyfriend, and then tell people who knows what about why I broke up with her, which led to her said best friend's boyfriend coming after me and I have no idea why he decided was the person to come after. Ended up with him getting thrown out of a club by bouncers. That fiasco absolutely destroyed my relationship with my GF, her best friend's relationship with her boyfriend, and their friendship which had lasted since kindergarten. Guess she asked for it. It was a saga with my abusive GF I had in my early 20s. I think overall the worst thing she ever did was to start a relationship with me. Lie about being pregnant and having cancer to keep me with her. I was sitting in class when she texted me to confess about she had just cheated on me with 2 guys that knew, at the same time. Really fucked me up trying to not break down in class. There was a horrible family tragedy. My nephew passed away at just 13 years old from a medical condition unexpectedly. I had to leave the province for a few weeks to be with my family. During that time she would barely answer her phone or any texts and if she did she'd kind of brush me off. She basically abandoned me emotionally. I broke up with her shortly after. Where to begin? She was recently, very recently, out of an extremely abusive relationship, mentally, physically, spiritually, sexually. I was recently sober. Basically we just fed off each other's energy. Sexually, it was magnificent and crazy, but the relationship itself was not healthy. She immediately just wanted to serve me, demeaning herself, and being used. I had only ever dated total feminists and was completely turned off by that behavior, but I obliged to try and satisfy her. Soon the requests and actions became too strange for me, and I was unable to treat her like a slave. Her last ex would lock her in his house and force her to clean/cook/etc. Or he would beat her and come up with creative punishments for her. When I tried breaking up with her she would have meltdowns. Punching me, locking me in the house, standing in front of my car, etc. First time I dealt with this and it was deteriorating on my mental health. She constantly accused me of cheating, which I never did, up to the point where I had to lie and say I did just to get out of the relationship. She was physically not letting me out of the relationship. It made me so miserable, that wanted to use, booty. Didn't. Eventually got out of the relationship somehow, but man was it a learning experience. I met up with her a few months after at a really low point and had coffee/sex. While L was inside her I just started crying. I think understanding the true trauma of the impact the relationship had on me. Needless to say I never did that again afterwards, and haven't spoken or seen her since. Not me, my brother-in-law, he got married a few years after high school. They were both broke, but they both wanted to go to college, so they decided that he would go to work and support them both while she went to school and then she'd work while he went to school. He worked his ass off to support her through college, and then as soon as she graduated she divorced him and moved away. He never got his degree. Cheated during deployments and when I was in the hospital. Then made fun of me for getting injured and disabled. Military wives man. Either the most loyal or the biggest POS you've ever seen. My now wife then girlfriend decided she'd rather watch basketball with her friend than do something with me. On my birthday, we were living together, and she invited her friend over to watch some game. I ended up going for a long walk. He was emotionally and sexually abusive. It's been years since I saw him last and I'm still, slowly but surely, recovering. Scars are still there, though, literally and figuratively. 2 things really stand out as the worst. He would constantly call me selfish. I still struggle with putting myself first when it's healthy or right to do so. It's much easier now, after therapy and time. He would threaten to leave me, kill himself, or would accuse me of not loving him ever every time I expressed something negative about him or our relationship. Over time it dissolved pretty much all of my boundaries, whether they were emotional, physical, or sexual. I could never say no to him. I still get anxious expressing my boundaries or needs in my current relationships, but I'm definitely getting better there. There are a few other weird and traumatic things he did too, but they sort of fall under the other two. First relationship, anally raped me right after taking my virginity. Apparently he took my hysterical crying and begging for him to stop as harder please. Most recent relationship, manipulated me into breaking off with my family in the worst way possible, then turned around and said that he was not responsible for what happened. Is extremely emotionally unstable and abusive. Pressured me to participate in anal sex even after having learned what happened and was mad that I cried. Strong-handed me into letting him stay after the relationship was over. He list goes on. Before anyone blames me for ending up with such guys, all of them started out as the sweetest, most charming people, all of them are highly educated. Second guy even bemoans how it's hard for a great guy like him to find a good relationship. Abusers know how to blend in, and they absolutely do not think they are abusive. I do have some good relationships that didn't last, so that balanced it out. Still, wouldn't wish my situations on anyone. The first and only woman I 20m at the time ever loved was my GF 21F at the time who I lived with while I was in college. She cheated on me. The whole build-up was in the span of a week as she grew increasingly more annoyed with everything and anything I did, got shorter and shorter with me. The day it happened I was leaving to go hang with some friends early in the morning, did the whole I love you routine but never got any reciprocation, even left on read after saying I loved her and that LD be home at 8. As she failed to respond to any messages or calls I had to wait in the kitchen for 4 hours till she got home. When she got home, I asked where she had been and all she said was that she wanted to take a break and that I needed to move out. She was really cold during the conversation and I was just bawling my eyes out confused. A week later after I moved back to my parents' house I tried calling her to still figure out why things ended the way they did, and the guy she cheated with answered the phone. When he gave her the phone she pretty much blamed me for her behavior and that I wasn't giving her enough attention. Mind you I was in college and working part-time to afford rent. Anyway that whole thing was the most painful weeks of my life so far. She dreamt that I was cheating on her and woke me up to tell me about it. Weird, right? I proceeded to do what any normal person would in that scenario and shrugged it off as I didn't know what to say and wanted to keep on sleeping. 5 seconds later was woken up by a punch to my face. She went on to do worse things to me, but that one was just ridiculous. I was visiting NYC with my ex-BF and had a lot to drink without eating dinner. I couldn't make a decision about where to eat after we went to a show and he got very angry at me and left me alone in the middle of the city around midnight. T had no idea how to get back to the hotel. I was terrified and drunk. I finally found my way back to the hotel and went up to our room. He would not let me in. I pounded and pounded on the door until he eventually opened it and let me in. Then he proceeded to yell at me for at least an hour and tell me what a horrible person I was, while I sat on the floor crying. He finally stopped and said he was sleeping on the floor because he could not stand me. I was in the bed but got no sleep. The next day he said he was sorry but had no explanation for his behavior. I stupidly forgave him booty never forgot and never trusted him again. He could not understand why I couldn't just get over it. Faked her death. This was an online relationship many years ago. We had been dating for a good while and talked about finally meeting up. Then one day a friend of mine in the online circle called me up late at night and told me she had died. As you can imagine I was crushed and spent that whole night crying. A few days later her sister came online and talked to all of us in the friend circle and mourned with us. We talked about all the good times we had etc. Then later on one of my friends tried sending flowers to her grave, but after calling the place they could not find anyone by that name. So, they started digging, and could not find any article or anything mentioning the death. They eventually got a hold of her dad on the phone, but he would not give any information. After a while my friend came to me with the info they gathered that basically proved the whole thing was fake. Turns out this BCH was faking the whole relationship and the pics she sent was from some random person online. Guess what? The sister that came online was actually her, pretending again. Turns out when shit got real and I wanted to meet up, she freaked out and told her dad, which in turn came up with the plan to fake her death. We confronted her and she confessed to everything. Cheated, then blamed it on me for being too busy, not enough attention. I've been working my ass off to make more money, so I'm the bad guy, even though I was loyal the entire relationship and supported her on whatever bullshit she thought up. Guys, know your worth. At work, as a man and as a human. Don't put up with people who blame you for their problems. Tried to punch me repeatedly in the head when I broke up with her and then called me when I got home and said she loved me and wanted me back. We were 16. Not the best relationship to start with. Repeatedly removed condoms mid-sex. Forcibly took my virginity. I respectfully disagree that I raped you. Kept a journal shit-talking me. Made a pros and cons list about dating me and left it where I could find it. Told me he didn't see how I could give anyone the type of love worth missing. You're not the best fish in the sea, but you're the best I'm gonna get. Burned my belongings. A combo of several ex's actions. My ex had a couple mental illnesses. She was very toxic for the whole 1 year that we were together. I was just too blind to realize how not normal that relationship was. I then tried to break up with her, but she used the "I'm gonna kill myself without you" card at least 2 or 3 times, and I never had the courage to break up with her, knowing that if she killed herself I would have to live with that for the rest of my life. At the end, she cheated on me with her recent best friend and just left me. At the time I was pretty heartbroken, but now, thanks God she cheated on me. I had the worst case of food poisoning after eating some overnight stuff, not my choice. I was staying at someone else's house back then. Had a fever of 39+ degrees Celsius for a week, and he was reluctant to even accompany me to the clinic, which was a 2-minute walk away. I was so weak he could only stay in bed that week. One of those days at 3 a.m., he woke me up and told me to clean the kitchen with him, then proceeded to curse at me after I returned to bed. I couldn't talk, stand, or do anything. I was about to pass out. Bought me chicken soup and lied to me saying it was double the price and tried to guilt trip me for not finishing it. I was about to throw up. My dad came over immediately and sent me to the hospital after knowing this. My ex didn't even bother walking me to the door. I sent him a photo of me wearing hospital clothes and his response was, "You look ugly in it." OFC, he never visited once either when I was hospitalized. High school. She wanted to break up with me but had no reason, so she made up a lie and told her brother. He confronted me about the lie at a party. He found out what a trip to the ER is like, and I found out what the back of a police car smells like and that handcuffs suck. Took about 4 hours for her parents to get a confession out of her. She's evil. Her brother though is a decent enough guy. And we're still on good terms. I was even a groomsman in his wedding. Evil sister wasn't invited.